Have you ever heard the teaching about redemptive gifts, or motivational gifts is what it used to be called? I remember Arthur Burns, I think was the name. Arthur Burke, that's the name of the researcher in England, who actually took the teachings of Romans chapter 12 regarding the gift of prophecy, teaching, of giving, of ruling, of mercy. And he made the argument that there are not only individual categories where these gifts are manifest, but there are cities in history where these gifts are actually redemptive gifts of cities. And then he went on to list the redemptive gifts of nations. This is a powerful, and I'm telling you, it blows your mind when you start to study it. We literally put a whole chapter of this into my last book. In today's broadcast, I'm going to cover some important world events, but I'm going to tie it in to how the redemptive gifts of nations actually are able to prosper nations. And I want to make something available to you. I did a special teaching with a couple thousand people in San Diego that are marketplace people, because I like to coach people on how does a Daniel, a Joseph work in the marketplace. Billy Graham said the next great revival is going to be in the marketplace. You got to make a living doing something. How do you merge walking with God and hearing God with how you make a living? Well, they go together. God is the God of all of life. So I have a special series I put together called Occupy the Gates. You're called to go forward into a place of influence, to be the head and not the tail. With that thought in mind, I've got a DVD, a USB, a digital copy. I want to make sure you get a hold of it. Go to lancewallnau.com/occupy and get this insider training for professionals, for business people, for marketplace people on how to walk in the supernatural while you're doing the work in the natural. lancewallnau.com/occupy. And then let's go take a look at the supernatural calling on nations. Well, you know, we're seeing the news cycle. I'm telling you, the good news is in the global tectonic shifting of principalities and powers, we see the dragon rising up in the Asia-Pacific Rim, but I believe we're also going to see nations that are going to realign, and there's going to be, I believe, an emergence of what the Bible calls sovereign nation states or sheep nations, which are going to come to their senses and say, we need to have a culture that's sustainable. We cannot let it fall apart. The attacks that happened in Washington, killing the two young Messianic Jews, by the way, outside of the History Museum with a guy yelling Free Palestine. And then you got the Colorado global intifada, crazy guy with Molotov cocktails that just got arrested as an act of terror. What we're looking at here is you have to sit back and look at it, that there is an Islamic dangerous merger of radicalism that doesn't fit within the culture of the United States. But then again, it finds its home in the political theories that are hostile to the United States. So it's like one big enchilada. You got to look at the whole thing and say, how do we deal with this? And the way that you deal with it is you have to continue to turn public opinion against it. And now, happily, we have an 80-20 divide in America, which is you don't hear it because the noisy news and media outlets still have the devil up there, with his megaphone. But on the street, people are looking at this and saying, this is not where we want to go. For that reason, the Pride parades and the Pride Month activity has experienced a massive loss of momentum. Corporations that are breaking apart from their DEI structures are now no longer funding the gay pride parades. And so what you're seeing is you're seeing a gradual and perceptible shifting of culture. Young men are now turning towards conservative, exploring ultimate truth. What is ultimately real? Masculinity is back in a celebrated capacity. And it's a good thing, but when you're dealing with this, you're going to see the manifestations of the frustration of the enemy. And you can't fixate on the manifestation to say what's causing that is America is coming to its its sanity. It's coming to its senses. It's developing a consensus about immigration that is far from where we were 10 and 15 years ago when Trump courageously said, hey, we got to have borders. Now, Mercedes was challenging me about something that we taught before, and it has to do with nations in God's plan. Healthy nationalism is actually what nations are supposed to do. They're supposed to care about their country's welfare. Globalism is when you say, the heck with this country, let's collapse all our borders and the elites will control everything. The rich in each country link their arms and they control the masses, kind of like Pharaoh. Everybody starts making bricks for the pyramids. And the healthy nationalists are those who say, I love my nation. My nation is a gift from God. And we have boundaries, we have borders, we have culture, we have families, we have gifts, we have resources, and every country has resources within them that, if explored and discovered, can cause that nation to flourish. And many times they're hidden in the soil. One country might have a tourism location. That's how the Caribbean works. They don't have oil and gas, but they've got the ability to have tourists come in. Other countries are rich in other assets. Every country has in it something that can be stewarded for the economic vitality and blessing of the people. And it goes to something in the Bible. I got 7 minutes here, but it's a powerful teaching that has to do with the redemptive gifts of cities, the redemptive gifts of nations, meaning that God puts nations on the earth and they have certain blessings from God in who they are. And if you can align with them, you find your secret, in a sense, you find your grace, your alignment with God's providence on your country. But let's talk about what those gifts are. The Apostle Paul in Romans chapter 12 says that this is individuals also. What's true for individuals is true for nation states. I'll show you why that works this way. Paul says, hey, we're members that all have different gifts according to the different grace given to us. I'm in Romans chapter 12, verse 6. Accordingly, use those gifts. Tap into the grace or the divine enablement that has been given to you. And then he lists what they are. He says prophecy, which is truth-telling, according to the proportion of your faith, or service or serving, or teaching in teaching, or exhorting in exhortation, or giving with liberality, or leading with diligence, or showing mercy with cheerfulness. Now, here's the interesting thing about redemptive gifts. Prophetic, creativity, innovative nations. The United States is a prophetic nation in the sense that it is the incubator for most of the world, from the laptop to energy, to the automobile, to the airplane, you name it. America is a unique, for a short period of time, it's a remarkably innovative, creative culture. Innovation is what America does. Elon Musk comes along and says it takes you 10 years to build a rocket that goes somewhere. I'm going to do it myself within a couple of years. Boom, he's in charge of the industry of space technology. Why? It's the innovative, prophetic, creative gift that is in America. Some of you have that gift, and really that's the secret to your prosperity. Others, service. Let me give you an example. You ran call centers. Where were the majority of your call centers operating from?
Well, a lot of different places, but Philippines is a...
Stop right there. Philippines is a servant nation, meaning that they are a hospitality nation. They are a service-oriented nation. The disposition, the mindset, the labor, the willingness to work, the willingness to please, the willingness to contribute. It's like a culture. Wouldn't you say that and it works well, because when you told me that you ran call centers, I noticed that a lot of them will be from the Philippines. And there's a reason why. Because if they were German, they'd be yelling at you. I went to Germany. I'll give you an example. Not a service-oriented nation. Germany is what you call a ruler nation. And that's why they started 2 world wars. They just lead. I mean, they're leading in Europe right now, even though their economy is three points down in their GDP. But he who leads with diligence, ruler is the word in King James. Germany is a ruler. I went into a shop in Germany, in Wiesbaden, and it was Christmas, freezing cold. It was Frankfurt. Annabelle and I were in a shop, and they had Glühwein out in the street. My wife, she loves the Glühwein. It's a wine. She's drinking. Let's try the Glühwein. She speaks German. She loves Germany. And so I said, I'm freezing cold. I went into a shop to go, get warm, be honest with you. And I'm in there. I thought, well, let's look at this. And I found some little trinket I wanted to get. And I walked up to the counter, and I wanted to get the trinket. And the lady goes up to the front door, pulls down a screen. We are closed. I said, wait a second. I've been in here. I want to just buy this. Come back tomorrow. We're closed at 5 o'clock. See the sign. But the sign says 5. I said, how do you? Now, of course, my Jewish New Yorker comes out. How can you do a business in Germany when you're pulling down the shades at 5? If this was does the owner know you? Sir, you want to buy something? Tomorrow, you come in at 9. We end at 5. The window's down. Good day. That's a ruler nation. They're going to efficiency. Get it done, and I'm going to tell you how to do it. Can you imagine customer service being done by Germans?
I'm German, so that's...
Well, that explains why we argue all the time.
That's why.
All right, so...
We don't argue all the time. People are going to think...
no, we're not arguing. You're on the show. No. I want diversity of perspective.
It's like, you ever tell the story about our profiles and how they're both challenging? Like when we did the inventory? I think it's funny.
I love psychological profiles because we have a profile, and it has this one line, which is the degree to which you push back in order to establish your point. And I'm all the way out here in like the 90 percentile. She's like 95%. She's past me. And it says, you might experience times when she will be stronger in her opinion than you. And I said, when I reached the point where I'm getting worn down, I go, there it is. You're wearing me down.
But the really funny part, the funniest thing in the inventory, because it doesn't bother Lance and I, like it's fine for us, but it's everybody else that gets uncomfortable. And it literally said that in the personnel inventory. You may think that, this is how you guys normally dialogue to get to the best decision possible, but it might make others around you uncomfortable. And I thought, that's what this is sometimes.
Well, it's a fact. Yeah.
It's just funny.
Now, I'm curious about this because then we go into he who teaches in his teaching. Now, I've got a list of this. I've got the redemptive gifts of nations, which was done by a guy. I'll remember who it is in a minute. But we have a whole chapter in our book on God's chaos code of how nations are redefining themselves into globalist nations or nationalist nations, which eventually is going to be two competing systems with the Antichrist and 10 kings and blah. But right now we're in the period where God's raising up these nations. It's the window of God's outpouring of grace. That's why we're trying to stop these wars. And we got to pray from a position. It's not the time for that anarchy. We can pray that way. But what I want to tell you is we list every nation and we have the redemptive gifts. Scotland is a teacher nation. Do you know how many theologians and how many great divines and great educators have, and Cambridge and Oxford? I know it's not Scotland, it's in Great Britain. Great Britain is a ruler nation. They ruled the world out of that little tiny island. It's a ruler nation. But Scotland is a teacher nation within the ruler nation. And there's a giver nation, givers also. You know who I think are the givers?
Poland.
Poland?
It says Poland's a giver. I pulled it up.
All right, go ahead. All right, we got 38 seconds. Run down the list. This is all with data and documentation and research.
There's a ton of. I'll do 7.
Give me some giver nations. We didn't go to give. These are people that have resources.
Armenia, Brazil, Cambodia, Cuba, Denmark. Go to the next list. Indonesia, Israel, Japan. Kenya. I'm going to stop there. Netherlands.
Give me mercy nations. Nations that are known for their
Australia, Austria. There's not a ton.
It's not a game show. Here. Why can't you find these things?
They're not in a direct.
We're out of time. Time's up, ladies and gentlemen. If we didn't mention your nation, we apologize. But we will cover this again. But I'm telling you, there is a reality to this. Certain cities have redemptive gifts. That's why San Francisco is the home for the hotbed for the LGBTQ movement. It's because it's a place where there's mercy and people that struggle with certain identities and questions, they're safe there. And so every one of these redemptive gifts has its own bizarre way in which it operates and manifests, and it happens over nations, over cities. And once you understand that, it's a jigsaw puzzle that actually makes sense. Well, believe it or not, that's all the time we have today. And if you like these bite-sized nuggets of what's happening now, please like, share, and subscribe, and you'll be able to be notified every time we're on the air. See you again tomorrow. I wanted to take a minute to talk about one of my great heroes of the faith, which is Mike Lindell. What's really cool about Mike is it's not just the pillow. It's the fact that the guy makes really cool products. For instance, I start my day off with my coffee. I had a cup of coffee the other day here in the office, and I said, no, I want that. It wasn't like Starbucks. It tastes better. And it was Mike's coffee. I said, what is it? They go, Mike Lindell's coffee. I said, my gosh, get a bunch of my coffees. Now, the best way to start the day is you put on these slippers, right? And have your My Coffee. If you've not worked with these slippers yet, I'm not kidding you. There's a special kind of a design that Mike has put into these with 4 layers of cushion with a solid sole and a fur interior. I call it my sip and slip strategy. I start my day off by slipping on my slippers, then having a sip of Mike's coffee. But you know what else I'm curious about now? Because I've got to check out the 2.0 pillow. The 2.0 pillow actually is designed so that it distributes the heat of your own head, your face. You know, you're lying there, and it makes it so the pillow's always cool. Now, I like that because I wake up in the middle of the night and have to flip over my pillow because it gets hot. Mike's solved that problem. I want you to go to mypillow.com, promo code Lance, because you can get a discount that I've set up for the pillows, for the coffee, and for the slippers. And do it today. You'll be happy.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends.